Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to the end of February recap. It's been another great month on the channel, and now we're going to recap it all. We were on quite the baseball kick this month, which accounts for 4 of the 9 games played this month, including 3 of the 5 debuts. This recap will be a little bit different. Obviously, we're going to talk about the games, then we'll recap Mystical Munchies, and then we'll go through Ask Me Anything. But after that, I have a special segment that I'm going to kick it to. We'll talk about that special segment when we get to it. For now, let's start with the game recap, and first up, we had the first game and the first baseball game of the month as we played Season Ticket Baseball. Season Ticket Baseball by Sports Mogul, just like it sounds, is a baseball simulator where you have a D6 and two different colored D10s to roll to determine the result of the at-bat. You've got your pitcher card, you've got your batter card, you might have fielder plays, and then you've got your stadium plays as well. Also potential for rare plays in the game as well. As far as the matchup is concerned, we had the Mets and the Braves from 2003. Atlanta won that game 4-1. It was a little bit cumbersome. Well, I wouldn't say it was cumbersome. It was actually a pretty good game. The price point actually is very accessible for this game, but special paper will make printing this a lot easier. It will increase the cost a bit, but I think it's worth it because the paper I'm talking about, I don't know if you can see it there in the lighting. Let me hold that up to the camera. But as you can see, I'm gotta hold it this way. It's actually specially perforated paper where it's perforated to print 6 sheets per, essentially 6 cards per page. So if you can get paper like that, all you do is fold it and then fold it back against itself on the perforation, and then it'll tear nice and easily. So that'll make your printing a lot easier if you get into this game. Anyway, that's it for Season Ticket Baseball. Next up, we had our next baseball game on the channel as we played APBA Baseball. Obviously APBA Baseball is another baseball simulator. This one's a little bit different where you've got 2 different colored D6. So you'll roll, say you get a 6 on your red die and a 3 on your white die, or whatever second color you're using. You wouldn't read that as a 9, you'd read that as a 63 instead. Then you go consult the card, get the result, and go to the appropriate chart, and the chart tells you how the at-bat works. For APBA, we had a matchup from 2004, as the Yankees paid a visit to Tropicana Field to face the Devil Rays. The Yankees took that one 9-1 on a 4 home run effort, 2 by Gary Sheffield, 2 by somebody else I forget. The basic game is very simple and very fast to play. The price can be a little bit intimidating, so be aware of that. You do have to pay extra for what's called the master game. You also need to know the symbols. And just from what I've been watching of it so far, I don't see myself doing much with the master system. I could do more with the basic game, but I might want to get another season or 2 for that. But that'll do it for APBA Baseball. Next up, we had yet another baseball game on the channel because I had a little bit of extra time this month as we played Payoff Pitch Baseball. Payoff Pitch Baseball? You guessed it, it's another baseball simulator. This one uses a 2D10, 2D6 system, where you'll roll 2D6 on the pitcher card, and then 2D10 on the batter card. You're rolling a percentile on that. And that's how you resolve the at-bat. We had a 1991 matchup for that one as the Montreal Expos visited Three Rivers Stadium to take on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Montreal won that game 5-4. They escaped one toward the end there. I really enjoy this one, and it helps that everything seems to flow pretty well. The components are very good quality, especially with the fast action cards which I was using. The base running at first glance seems a little bit cumbersome, but I think the fast action cards have something on there to help me out with that. Pitcher in the stadium definitely having an impact on the game also helps my enjoyment of this one. I should probably also mention with the other 2 games and the other baseball game that we played this month, I was doing ticker tape testing with all of them, because I've got another project brewing, but I'll talk more about that probably when we get to coming in March. But that'll be a little bit later in the recap. Anyway, that's it for Payoff Pitch Baseball. Next up, we had an old favorite return to the channel as we played Sentinels of the Multiverse. Sentinels of the Multiverse is a comic book boss battle simulator similar to Marvel Champions, where you've got a team of heroes against a villain and you have to account for an environment as well. In our case, we had Wraith, Fanatic, Akash-3 and Night Mist taking on Gloomweaver at Megalopolis. We managed to handle Gloomweaver in that game, but it did get a little bit dicey toward the end. I do really enjoy this game. One thing to be aware of, though, is the decision space in this game is a little bit limited, where you get your deck of cards, you shuffle it up, draw 4 cards from it, then you play through that. It's a fairly straightforward game with you have your villain phase where you do any start of turn effects, then you play a card from the villain deck, then you end of turn. Repeat that for each player and the environment turn. There's a lot of bookkeeping in this one, so do be aware of that. This is a really good game, though. I think this is a good one. This is a good gateway game that you could probably use to introduce somebody to the wider world of board gaming, just because the decision space in this game is so limited. But that's it for Sentinels of the Multiverse. Next up, we had another deck builder to the channel as we played G.I. Joe, the deck building game. Just like the name suggests, G.I. Joe the Deck Building Game from Renegade Game Studios is a deck builder set in the G.I. Joe universe, where you're trying to recruit Joes and other special cards to help you out with the missions in whatever story you're going on. Snake Eyes and Scarlet were our 2 main leaders that helped us debut this game. We got hammered in this game. We couldn't get away from the Cobra battalions, and they ultimately ended up overwhelming us, causing us to lose the game. I do enjoy this game, and it's got a very unique mechanic where it actually combines the deck building with dice rolling, so there's a nice balance there. Anyway, that's it for G.I. Joe the Deck Building Game. Next up, we had our last baseball game for the channel as we played Inside Pitch Baseball. Inside Pitch Baseball from Inside Sports Games, you guessed it, another baseball simulator, our 4th one of the month. For this one, we went back in time to 2013 as the Seattle Mariners went to Houston to visit the Astros. Houston won that game 5-1 at home, and the ticker testing for all of them went very well. I really enjoy this game, and I like how it's got a unique matrix system where you start off on the pitcher card, then depending on the results there, you either go to the batter card or the ballpark card, so there's involvement from everybody in this game. You may even have rare plays, but hence the name, those are rare. I do need to spend a little bit more time with this one to help me iron out some of the smooth edges. The base running is a little bit cumbersome to me, but as I continue watching RJL Network's playthroughs of Inside Pitch, and I'll link it to his channel in the description down below, I'm definitely making a lot more sense of this game, but I do want to spend some more time with this one. Anyway, that's it for Inside Pitch. Now let's go to our other comic book battler as we played Marvel Champions. Marvel Champions from Fantasy Flight Games is another comic book boss battler set in the Marvel Comics universe, and it's a living card game where you're always having to buy content. For this playthrough, we had Black Widow join the team, as she and Phoenix took on Crossbones. The 2 of them handled business against Crossbones, but Phoenix definitely carried the day. Now, I normally wouldn't stop to talk about this, but I am going to talk a little bit about some differences between Marvel Champions and Sentinels of the Multiverse. Whereas in Sentinels, you get a preset deck built for you, Marvel Champions gives you a lot more customization, where you can build a deck around any hero that's currently in the game, in one of 4 or 5 different aspects. I think the aspects are leadership, justice, protection, and aggression, which is what I normally play, at least with Storm and Phoenix. The round, I think, is a little bit simpler in Marvel Champions, where you don't have to account for an environment as well. You've got a hero phase and then a villain phase, where the villain tries to scheme and might attack you, then also you also have a couple encounters to deal with in the villain phase. Of the 2, I go back and forth on which one I prefer, but I tend to lean toward Marvel Champions just because I like a lot more of the customization where, yes, you can play with the decks pre-built out of the box, but there's also something to be said for exploring with the decks where you can look at a Storm, who I believe came just as in the box, and be like, okay, how does she fare with an aggression deck? Or Captain Marvel, I think, is aggression as well. What if I want to try her as leadership? So you've got that more customizable element there with Marvel Champions. But I do enjoy them both, and I think there's room for both in your collection if you have the finances and the space for them. But that's it for Marvel Champions. Next up, we actually started in my TAC-UP Wargaming list with the first game on the list as we played Fleet Commander Nimitz by DVG. Fleet Commander Nimitz by DVG puts you in the shoes of Admiral Chester Nimitz in control of the Pacific Fleet during World War II, and you're trying to hold on for dear life against Japan and or try to potentially conquer Japan. This one is very heavy, and I knew that going in, but I don't think I was even prepared for how heavy it ended up being. We ended up having the Hawaiian Islands threatened after the end of turn 1. Yes, that's thematic, but I didn't have time to explore that more, as the day kind of got away from me a little bit. I ended up having other things going on. I ended up tapping out, but I do want to give this game a bigger chance when I actually have more time to dig into it. I'm thinking that'll probably be December when I get to that, so I'm going to probably hold on to Nimitz for the time being. My first impression was not good, but again, day kind of got away from me a little bit, and I want to dig into it a little bit more. So I'm going to hold final judgment until I have a chance to dig further into it. Anyway, that's it for Fleet Commander Nimitz. Last up, we went back to the boxing ring as we played Glory Days Boxing from Sideline Strategy Games. Glory Days Boxing by Sideline Strategy Games, just like it sounds, is a boxing simulator where you're going through a boxing match. For this one, we had a rematch of what I considered to be the best bout in the Greatest Boxer Tournament from last year, as Rocky Balboa took on Ken Norton in a 10-round rematch. There was a little bit less high drama in this one. Balboa seemed to control the bout pretty much all the way to winning a unanimous decision over Ken Norton. Whereas if you remember back to the tournament bout, they actually went to a majority decision because in round 4, Balboa actually ended up breaking his hand on a pretty nasty shot. I do really enjoy both Title Bout 2 and Glory Days Boxing. And I think I really like both of them equally. It all depends on how much time I have to sink into a boxing match. If I have a little more time to sink into it, I may pull out Title Bout 2. If I'm a little short on time and I want to get a quick boxing fix in, I'm probably going to reach for Glory Days Boxing. So I know it's a little bit of a cop-out answer to say I prefer both, but that's just kind of the way it is. Anyway, that's it for the games. Next up, let's recap Mystical Munchies. This month for Mystical Munchies, we were cooking out of the Cooking for Wizards, Warriors, and Dragons cookbook. Here's how the recipes went. For the appetizer, we made the chicken stuffed pastries. These actually turned out to be really good. They're basically glorified chicken sandwiches, essentially. It's a bit bready, but given that we were using whole sheets of puff pastry, that's kind of to be expected. Next up, we had the baked pears with gorgonzola and candied walnuts. The walnuts actually turned out to be pretty good, even if they were a little difficult to work with. The pears were not very good at all, but I think some of that's because I didn't use the Bosco pears that it called for. I ended up using Bartlett pears, and I wasn't happy with how the pears turned out at all. Next up, we had the poached fish with white wine sauce and fennel. The fish actually took a lot of work to do, but it did end up turning out pretty good. Probably not going to be my go-to fish recipe, but it's nice to have another good fish recipe in the repertoire. Last up for the dessert, I wanted to make the runaway fruit tarts, but I wasn't able to find one of the ingredients I needed, so I ended up going to coconut pie instead. The recipe turned out to be very good, but liquidy coming out of the oven. So I ended up putting this in the fridge after the taste test, and it set a lot better with the time that we spent in the fridge with it. So something to keep in mind there. That's it for Mystical Munchies. Next up, let's go through Ask Me Anything. For those of you who are new to the channel and this is your first recap you're watching, first of all, welcome to the community. Second of all, Ask Me Anything is a segment where you can ask me questions and I'll usually answer them. The only thing I ask is that they're not too personal questions, because I will reserve the right not to answer a question if it's too personal. As far as what I deem to be too personal, just use a little common sense. If you wouldn't want it asked of you, don't ask it of me. I figure that's a pretty straightforward way to put it. But we only had 2 questions, so the way this segment works is if you have a question you want to ask me for the Ask Me Anything tag, you can leave a comment on any video starting from here to the last video before the end of March recap with an AMA tag in it, so I'll know it's for this segment. And then once again, as long as I don't deem the question to be too personal, I will answer it. We only had 2 questions this month, and they were both from Jester. So when I made Season Ticket Baseball, he wanted me to give an opinion on Season Ticket versus Payoff Pitch. I'm going to punt on that, but only for like a minute or 2. I will come back to that question, though. Then when I made the unboxing from February 5th, Jester wanted to know when we were going to see Alone Against the Static. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Alone Against the Static is the newest Call of Cthulhu solo adventure, where you're playing a solo adventurer going through essentially a choose-your-own-adventure style story in the Call of Cthulhu universe. As for when we're going to see Alone Against the Static, I'm expecting that right now to be sometime in August. That'll be Mythos month, and what I like to do in August is I've got one of my yearly Arkham Horror Files campaigns where I play 3 of the biggest games in the Arkham Horror Files, and I just call August Mythos month, also in honor of H.P. Lovecraft's birthday. So as part of that, I have the Summer of Lovecraft, and then I'll do a bunch of Call of Cthulhu adventures to make a Mythos month out of it. So that's probably when we're going to see Alone Against the Static on the channel. But that's it for the Ask Me Anything questions. Next up, I talked about having a special segment that I wanted to kick it over to. We were playing a lot of baseball games on the channel this month, so now I want to talk about them in particular. As far as the baseball games are concerned, I kind of touched on them briefly when I was talking about the games. As far as how I'd rank them, so I actually ended up getting samples or own 5 different baseball simulators. I've got Payoff Pitch, Inside Pitch, APA Baseball, Season Ticket Baseball, and I got some samples of Triple Play Baseball from Jester in one of the gigantic product unboxing when he sent me a whole box of stuff. So I was actually starting to record a playthrough of Triple Play Baseball, but I ended up turning that off in the top of the second inning, because I just couldn't stand how that game was flowing. It was very cumbersome to me. It did start to bring the stadium into it, but it was a very complicated way it brought the stadium into it. So I guess I'd rank that one number 5. I'd rank APA Baseball at number 4, mostly because the price point kind of scares me a little bit on that one. And I think I'm going to go Inside Pitch, Season Ticket, and then Payoff Pitch as number 1. But those 3 can move around very easily, especially if I end up smoothing out some of the rough edges with Inside Pitch. Because I really do like what that game's going for, and and I want to spend more time trying to learn that one, so we're going to keep an eye on that in the future. Next up, with the end of that segment, let's talk about what's coming in March. We're going to have 3 new games scattered throughout the month of March. First up, we're going to have an old favorite as we play APA Hockey. We have a matchup from the 1984-85 season lined up, and I will be doing another round of ticker testing with that as well for a potential hockey season replay. In addition, on Sundays, we'll have a longer session of Sorties in Night Fighter Ace, and another session of Age of Innovation from Feuerland Spiel. After that, we're going to debut the Plum Island Horror on the channel, as that was Matthew's pick from last year's Greatest Boxer Tournament. For those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about on that front, I actually had a predictions contest during the Greatest Boxer Tournament, where it was going to be a point system based on the fighters advancing and the number of rounds each bout was going to take. Whoever would have won that contest, say that 5 times fast, would have gotten to pick a game that I would have featured in the first half of the year. Since Matthew was the was the only one who submitted a bracket pick, and I wasn't eligible because it's my contest, he won, and he picked out the Plum Island Horror for me to feature on the channel. So we're going to make good on that pick in the month of March. Then last on Sunday, we're going to have the second game on my Tack Up Wargaming list as we play the Hunters. As for Wednesdays, we'll start with a debut as we play All Time Wrestling with the Dream Matchup. Next, we're going back to the Leader series by DVG as we play Hornet Leader Carrier Air Operations. Next, we're headed back to the Desert World of Arrakis and the Dune World as we play Dune Imperium. Last up for the month, we're going to debut our first racing game on the channel as we play Heat Pedal to the Metal. In addition to all of that, we're going to do another round of baseball testing during the third week of March. This time, I'm testing 4 nights of the week. My schedule is changing a bit this coming month, between getting clear of my top 100 board games with Jester and Higher Ground Gaming, which will finish the first week of next month, as we go from 20 to 11 on Sunday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, and then from 10 to 1 on Tuesday at 9 p.m., 8 Central. That'll be live on Jester's channel. I'll also link to Jester's channel in the description down below. I'm also dropping one of my social game nights. The reason I'm delaying testing by a couple nights, by a couple weeks rather than jumping in right away, is I want to give myself a little bit of time to adjust to a new schedule before I jump in. Anyway, that week, we're going to be playing APBA Baseball on Sunday, Inside Pitch on Monday, Payoff Pitch Thursday, and Season Ticket on Saturday. If those nights seem random, and they probably do at first glance, bear with me until the end of March recap, where I'll be able to clarify everything why there's nothing random about any of those nights. As for Mystical Munchies, we're going to feature the official Halo cookbook. I had a different cookbook planned, but I'm calling an audible on this one as well. We'll be featuring chocolate chip scones, sweet potato fries, Frank's fish nuggets, and chocolate cream pie. I'm also going to need a drink because we got 5 Saturdays in the month, so we're going to go with hot chocolate for the month. Admittedly, it's going to be a very chocolatey month. With that, let's wrap this video up. That's the end of February recap. Saturday we're starting Mystical Munchies out of the official Halo cookbook with the appetizer, chocolate chip scones. Sunday we're playing APBA Hockey with a 1984-85 matchup lined up. And Wednesday we're playing All Time Wrestling. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.